Hello everyone, welcome to another very exciting tutorial. Today what we're going to do is we're going to create this UI component or UI element, which is a tag container including the tags. So basically you have the input, you start typing like tips for example, it will add it as a new tag, and then you have this close icon that actually closes the tags. So let's jump and right in. So I'm just going to go ahead and in a new sort of fresh canvas in the Kotus online editor, I'm going to create a container. And within the container, I'm going to actually add the component that I'm going to build, which is the tag container. Within the tag container, the way I present each of these tags is that I'm going to create a div called tag. Within the tag, I'm creating a span, and this will contain the label of what I have. Like for example, let's say the tag is JavaScript. And then I will, for the close icon, I'm going to use material icons. Uh, Going to the website, type in here close, and hopefully they have a close icon. Yes. So here it's as easy as copying this inside here after the span. I'm just going to copy the I. As you can see, it just says close, but we need to also go to instructions. I will search for link and then copy the corresponding style sheet and include it in the project in the CSS by typing import URL, and then I will import that URL. So now you can see that we have our icon. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and add styles to make it the way we want it, like this. So going back to the styles, I will start with the container. This container can be anything really. It could be a table cell in your page or another div or whatever, right? This is just simply something that I can style so that I have a better space over here. So I will just say width 60%, and then maybe I just give it a bit of a margin, 40 pixel. Now, what I want to do, start styling the tag container. So tag container, give it a border of 2 pixels solid CCC, and maybe give it a padding of 10 pixel, give it a border radius of 5 pixel. Looks good. That's enough for this. And then I'm gonna go and style the tag element, which has maybe like padding of 5 pixel, border 1 pixel solid CCC, and then give it like maybe a let's see, let's give it a margin of 5 pixel as well. And yeah, so looks good. Let's just copy this for the sake of making sure that we are doing it correct. So I'm just gonna add another tag, CSS. Looks okay. What I would like to do is in the tag container right now, they are vertically like this, but I can just set the display to be flex on the tag container so that they come one after the other. And then in the tag section, I can just say display flex as well, and then align items to be center so that they kind of look pretty much correct. So now what I need to do is simply, I know that the close icon is of tag I, so I just say tag I, making font size to be a little bit smaller and maybe a margin left of 5 pixel, make it look good. I also would like to give the tag a border radius of 3 pixels, right? So it looks good. Going back, maybe give it a background of something a little bit of a gray. All right, cool. So as you can see now, we have kind of the same look and feel that we wanted to go for. Now we need to actually start doing the interactions, meaning that there should be an input here. When you type on it, you want that when you press enter, you want that whatever you type to be added as a tag, right? So what I need to do is at the end of the last tag, I just create an input. As you can see, this input comes here, so I'm going to style this a little bit. So tag container input. First and foremost, I want the flex to be 1 so that it kind of expands to the remaining area. and maybe change the font size to be 60 pixel, give it a padding of 5 pixel, the same as we did for the tags. And then as you can see in Chrome, when you make it focused, it has this outline. So I'm just going to say outline none. And ultimately, I say the border to be 0, which means that I don't want to have any border, right? So it looks all right. The next thing I want to do is obviously these are added right now so that I can make the style sheet works correctly. I just need to remove them, but I will cut one of these and go ahead in my JavaScript to try to make it in the JavaScript. So now I'm just going to create a function. Let's create a function called create tag, passing the label of that whatever I type. In this case is JavaScript. So we have a div, so document.createElement div. We also have a span, as you can see here, span. And then also we have the I. I'm just going to call it close btn because I know it's the close button. So I. Now for the div, you can see that we have the class tag. So I'm just going to say set attribute, class, and tag. This needs to be a string. And the span has the inner HTML of the label that we pass. So span.innerHTML is going to be label. And then what we have is the material icons. The I should have, so the close btn.set attribute, the class should be material icons, so material icons, and then it also has a inner HTML of close, right? So now the last thing I want to do, we just created them one by one. Now I have to add span and I to this div as a children. So I just do div.append child. I just pass the span here and then div.append child, and then I pass the close btn, which is our I tag, right? Ultimately, I can return the parent div, and then I can basically add it to whatever I want. So we have here the tag container. I need in JavaScript to have a reference to that. So I'm just going to say tag container document.query selector tag container, right? Now, just to show you how it works, I can easily come here and say tag container.prepend. I'm not using append. Let me show you what append child does. Append child, and then I just call this function. Create tag with the label I want, right? So now you can see that the tag is added, but because I used append child, it actually ended up appending that sort of div to the end of the children in the tag container. I just can use prepend, and you can see that it correctly stands where it should be. The next thing I want to do is to add the event listener for this one. So I have to have a reference to my input. So I just call it input and then tag. I know that it's the tag input in the tag container. And what I can do is I can just say input.add event listener and then a key up. Passing the second parameter is a function, and then what I really want is that when I add, so enter something here and press the enter key, I want that to be added as a tag. So what I can do, I can just do if the event that I get dot key is actually enter. I just want to basically get the just want to create the tag first. So const tag equals to create tag, and then the label will be input.value, and then I just do tag container dot prepend, obviously, and then tag, right? And ultimately, I just want to make sure my input value gets reset so that you don't see the text that you have written already. So now if I start doing this and enter, you can see that it gets added as a tag, right? So the important thing here is that I can just go ahead and do this, but in the real scenario, obviously these tags are, maybe getting loaded from the backend. So there's an API call where you get these tags, or even when you want to send them to be saved. So you need to have some sort of data store. In this case, I'm just going to create an array called tags, right? Empty. So I'm just going to make it a variable, tags. So basically, instead of creating this directly like this, I'm just going to copy this, and then I just do tags.push the input.value. So what I really do is that I just push the value that I typed here in these tags, and then I will create a function, new function, that actually add the tags, right? Based on the elements that I pushed in these tags. So I can do tags.forEach, passing the function tag, and then I can just paste whatever I had over here. So now this will be the tag, and then I would just say change this to, I don't know, input, and then add that, prepend that input, right? So now this should supposedly, if I call add tags here, what it really does is that whatever I entered after clicking will get pushed into this array, and then calling this add tags will go over that array. In this case will be whatever item I enter, and it will just call this function, create tag, and then prepend that, ultimately that div to the tag container. So if I start typing CSS, it should do the same thing. Now what I do is if I add the second one, you can see that it not only added the second one, which was JavaScript, but it also not only it looped through that array, which was CSS and JavaScript, but it actually didn't clean up the previous one that we added as CSS. So now I'm just going to create a function reset, and for this case, I'm just going to do document.query selector all the tags in my page, all the elements with class tag, and then I do for each passing function for each tag, and then I do tag.parent element, which is now it's going to be the tag container, dot remove child, the tag itself, right? And then every time I add the tags, I just call this reset function, right? So now if I start typing CSS, good, JavaScript, pretty good. Now there is no second CSS. But the problem right now is that obviously when I type something here, let's say front end, I don't want it to end up in the beginning, but I want it to end up at the end of this list, right? The reason why it gets added in the beginning is obviously here we do prepend, right? So the prepend will prepend our div that we created to the beginning, or it basically adds it to the beginning of the children of the tag container. In order to fix this, instead of doing tags.forEach, I will use the slice function, and then I use the reverse function on the tag. So what it really does is that it opens up the tag, whatever I have. So if I have JavaScript and CSS, for example, here, it basically opens up, reverses it. So CSS will be in the beginning, JavaScript will be at the end, and then it uses prepend, which puts them in the right order, right? So now I'm just going to remove this. And then if I now start typing CSS and then JavaScript, you can see that it gets placed on the right uh, sort of position. All right, perfect. So far so good. So everything works the way we want, front end tips, and they all get added to the tags, and then we can ultimately have like a button over here. I don't know, like post the tags to the server, and then get this and pass it as in the post body or something, and then save it in the backend. Now the next thing we want to do is that by clicking on this close button, we wanted this item to be gone, right? And the way we do it is that I'm just going to go ahead and say document dot add event listener, click, and then in the second function, in the second parameter, I have the function with the event of the event object representing that click. So I would do if.e.target dot tag name is equals to capital I, because that's how the tag name will work, meaning that I clicked on one of those tags. What I would like to do, I'm just going to do const value. I just say e dot target dot something, right? if you notice here, when we create the tag, what we can do is we can add a sort of an attribute to our close tag, call it data item, which represents the same label, right? So now if I type something, let me just remove this for now. If I type CSS, now if I inspect the element here, so I'm just going to inspect the element, you can see that this I tag also has an attribute data item CSS. Now I can use this to remove this element, right? In order to do that, I would just say if e.target, I just can get the value by calling e.target.get attribute data item, right? So now I pretty much know which element I need to remove from this tags array, and then after that I can just call this function add tags again to re-render the whole tags without the element that I removed, right? So how am I going to do it? So the way to do it is that I can just create a new array. And the way to do it, I'm just going to show something new, which is of ES6 syntax in JavaScript. So you know JavaScript has standards, and that standards define the way the language is defined, right? So far, whatever you see here is called ES5, but nowadays people use ES6 or the new syntax, so it's much nicer, much easier. It's not supported in all the browsers. Chrome definitely supports it, but if you are using it for some other, like Internet Explorer, you definitely need to have something called transpiler, or what we call compiler, that compiles or transpiles that ES6 code to ES5 that would be understandable by any browsers. But for now, I'm going to show you something really interesting, right? So an array, I'm just going to open the inspector here, going to console. We can define an array A1, 2, 3, 4, right? So this is my array. Now, there is like a concept in ES6 which is called spread operator, right? So the other way I can represent this array is just to, let's say, array B, I can just do array and then I can use spread operator before the name of my variable, which is A, right? So what it really means is that spread the A and put them in the new array, right? So it spreads this, takes 1, 2, 3, 4, and puts it in the new array. So now you will see that B actually corresponds to the same values. So some of the nice things we can do, for example, let's say we want to remove the second element over here. So I'm just going to say index equals to 1, because in JavaScript and pretty much any language apart from some of them, they in array the indexes starts from 0. So I want to remove this 2, which is in index 1, right? So I just put index 1 here. Now, in JavaScript, when you work with arrays, there is a function called slice. So if I do JavaScript slice here, search it on Google, you can see that array has a slice function. This slice method returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array object, right? So for example, here, if you see the animals array, it uses a slice on the index of 2, and when you only have one argument to this slice function, it actually goes to, so this 0, 1, 2, it actually gets all the elements after 2, including the 2, and it puts it in a new array. As you can see, the second one. But you can also define like 2 inputs to it, 2 arguments. So it will start from 2 and end at 4, and also this one it starts at 1 and end at 5. And when you use this, it actually starts including the first argument, but it excludes the last one, right? So for example, in this example, it will start at 2, so 0, 1, 2, so it includes this, then 3, and then 4, so it excludes the 4 one, so it only goes camel and duck. So now in our code, what we can do, which is very easy and interesting to do, is that we can get the index, right? So I'm just going to define an index. I just say, I'm just going to close this one. I do tags dot index of this value. So for example, if I added CSS and then JavaScript, So you would see that the index of CSS will be 0 and the index is spawn. So now I can change it so that my tags will be, I'm going to use the spread operator. So I will do like tags dot slice from 0, the first element, until the index that I found, right? And then I'm pretty much representing the same array. And then I have tags index, and then I can do spread tags dot slice from the index onwards, right? So this pretty much represents the same tags array using the spread operator. But now I know that when I click on the eye icon on the close, I don't want the actual tag index. So I'm just going to go remove it, right? So now my tags are the same elements in this tag that we have here, excluding the one that we want to remove. And now I go ahead and obviously just call this function add tags, and I should see all the list without that element. So if I do CSS JavaScript frontend, now if I click on this like this, it should actually remove that index. So let's see why it didn't work. I always open the browser over here to see what kind of things that I forgot to do. So when I click on this, I just want to make sure that I click on the right thing. So if e.target.tag name is I, let's just console log the value here. Console log the value, just to make sure I'm clicking on the same thing. So CSS, if I click on this, I get the CSS. So this is correct. Just to fix something, I don't want this sort of pointer as if like I can type here. I'm just going to go to the tag and make the cursor to be default. So I don't get that, editing pointer. So now it looks better. So if I click on this, you can see that I get the CSS. So that is correct. Going back to my JavaScript, this is like how I debug my code to see how it works. So index is tags, index of the value. So this is also correct. So we have now what we do is that let's see if actually this tag is with the correct value. So tags, I open the inspector again. I just type here CSS, JavaScript. Now if I click on this, I actually get CSS and JavaScript as if like this operation that I showed you doesn't work. And let's see why. Obviously I know why, because the index should be index plus 1, because we removed the actual index. So the slicing should start from index 1. So now if I do CSS, JavaScript, and then front end, if I remove the JavaScript, you can see that the JavaScript is now removed. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Again, it was a very extensive tutorial. Excuse me if it took some long time. We're just gonna put this prototype in the description. Go ahead and read it and exercise and play with it. If you had any questions or comments or concerns, please go ahead and add that in the comment section. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please, please, please go ahead and do and click on the bell icon so that you get notified. Let's make this channel the best channel on YouTube. I wish you a great day and night, and see you next time. Goodbye.